When we picture the Ice Age, we usually imagine a brutal, non-stop scramble to stay alive. We think of our ancestors shivering in caves, constantly running from predators, and scraping by on the absolute edge of starvation. But the archaeological record tells a different story. Early humans used specialized stone tools to work with high efficiency. A coordinated hunting party could secure a massive kill and process it before the sun even hit its peak. A single mammoth yielded tons of usable meat and fat, enough to sustain a tribe for weeks. Once the butchering was finished and the meat was hung to dry, the calories were secured, and the primary work of survival was done. This creates a unique problem. If the hunt is finished by noon and the meat is processing, the tribe is left with a 14-hour gap of empty time before they can sleep and begin the next day's tasks. You now have a group of highly aggressive, adrenaline-fueled hunters sitting together in an enclosed space with no immediate goal. Without a way to channel that energy, that downtime becomes a source of social friction and internal conflict. Managing those 14 hours became an evolutionary necessity. To keep the tribe intact, they had to invent ways to occupy their minds, a challenge that resulted in the earliest forms of human culture. The tension usually peaked during the distribution of the kill. When two successful hunters came to a dispute over the best cuts of meat, there was no legal system to intervene. Instead, they relied on competitive physical games. Grappling, wrestling, and throwing contests allowed individuals to burn off excess adrenaline and settle their arguments through structured competition rather than lethal combat. These games transformed potential violence into a social tool. By establishing rules and rewards, the tribe could resolve internal power struggles while keeping their best hunters healthy and capable. As afternoon fades, the tribe retreats to their shelters. They gather around the central hearth, shifting focus from physical competition to communal engagement. We know they filled these hours with sound. Archaeologists have recovered carefully carved bone flutes dating back over 40,000 years. These weren't crude noisemakers. The holes are carved at precise intervals to create specific musical scales, allowing the player to produce intentional melodies and repeating rhythms. Long before the wheel or the first farm, these communities were already developing shared musical traditions to pass the quiet hours of the night. They used physical play to prevent internal death, and musical invention to build a sense of collective harmony, turning the potential danger of boredom into a social glue. When night falls completely, the wilderness becomes invisible. The sounds of predators outside the firelight create a constant, low-level psychological stress that the tribe had to manage together. This is where fireside storytelling became a survival mechanism. By weaving narratives around the hearth, the group could process the day's traumas and reinforce the social bonds that kept them united. These stories cataloged environmental threats. They transformed predator experiences into structured narratives to pass down crucial knowledge. The creatures painted on these walls, the large horned bulls and deer, were the central characters in these tales, the focal point for their fears and future hunting strategies. As the hours deepened into the dead of night, storytelling occasionally gave way to a more extreme form of escapism. Early humans began experimenting with altered states of consciousness. They used rhythmic chanting, sensory deprivation, and naturally occurring plants to step outside their immediate reality. This often involved retreating into the furthest reaches of caves. In the utter darkness and silence of the Earth's interior, they sought out visions and experiences that moved beyond the everyday world of survival. By midnight, the prehistoric day had moved from the physical labor of the hunt to a deep internal exploration of the human mind. Today, we view the time we spend resting or seeking entertainment as a modern indulgence or even a distraction from the real work of life. But the 14-hour gap has always been there. Our modern habits of watching stories, playing immersive games, or getting lost in music are continuations of the behaviors our ancestors used to manage their social and mental stress. The drive to escape reality for a few hours is a trait we have shared for 40,000 years. It is a persistent feature of our species, appearing in every era of human history we have unearthed. The physical evidence left in the earth shows that even during difficult times, our ancestors prioritized the creation of instruments and gathering the tribe. They fought to survive, specifically so they could have the downtime to build these traditions. Survival was the means. The time spent around the fire was the end. If you were sitting around that prehistoric hearth tonight, which activity would you have joined? Let me know down in the comments and subscribe for more trips into our shared history. I'll see you in the next one.